Greetings, and thank you for this opportunity to present at this commemoration of International Translation Day 2022. I'm going to try to convince you today that there is a need for a centralized, specialized directory of interpreters and translators working with an indigenous language. And I will tell you about a plan to create such a directory, which involves the collaboration between FIT and Wikitongues. I'm Alan Melby, chair of the FIT North America Regional Center, and formerly vice president of FIT Mundus, the global organization, of which FIT North America is an integral part. The question that I would like to begin with is a very particular question about access to healthcare and justice for Indigenous peoples. Sometimes a member of an Indigenous language community needs access to healthcare at a medical facility or participate in legal proceedings as a plaintiff or a defendant in a court where that facility or that court is outside their community. Often, this circumstance results in the need for a translator or interpreter who works with the indigenous language in question. How do the medical or legal professionals in these medical facilities or courts find appropriate translators or interpreters with these specialized skills, especially when they don't have such professionals already in their circle, or the ones they have typically used are not currently available? Our vision is a centralized online resource for medical and legal professionals and others to use to help them find an interpreter or translator who works in the needed language pair. There are many directories, current directories, to help the general community, general population, find translators and interpreters between the major languages. But it's not so easy to find interpreters who have one of their languages anchored in the indigenous languages. The information in the resource, in our vision, could be a combination of links to other directories, including some of the well-established existing directories that are primarily for major languages, but have a few indigenous language professionals listed. And it could also be links to individuals with these skills. In today's global society, where access to a professional translator or interpreter is not necessarily local and face-to-face, with the dramatic increase in the use of remote simultaneous interpreting, we feel there's a need for a global solution for access to translators and interpreters for indigenous peoples, and that this global solution should build on existing global organizations. Our proposal involves collaboration between two of these, FIT and Wikitongues. FIT is the International Federation of Translators. It's been around for many years and has close ties with UNESCO. Wikitongues has the ambitious objective of documenting every language in the world and to revitalize many of them. How did this collaboration begin? I was privileged to represent FIT at the launch of the Year of Indigenous Languages, previous to the Decade of Indigenous Languages, which is a follow-up to that year. And that Year of Indigenous Languages was launched February 1st, 2019, at the United Nations headquarters in New York City. There I met a number of colleagues, including Daniel Bögre Udell, the executive director of Wikitongues. Soon thereafter, I arranged for the president of FIT to meet Daniel face-to-face when they were in the same city. A small grant was obtained, and the FIT Council approved an exploratory project to determine whether there was indeed a need for such a specialized directory. How did this exploratory project proceed? It was implemented primarily by Calvin Westfall, a graduate student at Brigham Young University, BYU, who was then president of the Student Translation Club. Calvin was first hired by the BYU Translation Research Group, and we thank BYU for their support of the first phase of this exploratory project. Later, after graduation, the project was continued, thankfully, when Wikitongues hired Calvin to finish it. In this project, Calvin examined the languages in all the directories of member associations of FIT. After a year of part-time research, he provided the following quote to accompany his detailed report, his quote specifically for this presentation. Looking at the data, there is a documented need for a centralized, specialized directory of translators and interpreters who work with indigenous languages. We know they exist, but their information is not easily accessible, end quote. Recently, I met with Daniel, executive director of Wikitongues, about where we go from here. And to my delight, I learned that Wikitongues has concluded that the Wikitongues website should be expanded beyond the current scope, which is primarily documentation and revitalization. He stated for this presentation, our partnership with FIT is exciting because we have the opportunity to make human resources more accessible, building, to my knowledge, the first comprehensive directory of active interpreters and translators for underserved languages, indigenous and others. We've taken that first step by indexing all the languages supported by FIT members. Later this year, we'll make the directory public at wikitongues.org. Long term, we aim to make it easier to find translation and interpreting services for under-resourced languages, facilitating more equitable cross-cultural exchange, end of quote. What is the road ahead? Calvin, who is now a language professional, working with a language service provider, is planning in his spare time to write and publish a paper detailing his year-long study of the websites of all 135 organizations that are members of FIT. Wikitongues, which is a nonprofit with 501c3 status, which allows for many people to make their contributions tax deductible, is planning to seek further financial resources through grants and contributions from individuals to support the expansion of the website. This project is huge, but we believe worthwhile. And well, we're in the decade of Indigenous languages. Hopefully it won't take us to the end of the decade before the directory is usable. It is important, in closing, to note that the Wikitongues website provides centralized access by complementing, not competing, with existing directories of translators and interpreters. Many of the existing members of FIT have their own directories. And although they're primarily about translation between major languages, there are some entries of Indigenous languages. The project, the bigger project, the long-term project we have in mind is in no way intended to compete with those. In many cases, the Wikitongues website will point to those existing directories, as well as to individuals who may not be easily found in existing directories. The point is to provide access to interpreters and translators for Indigenous peoples when there is such a need. We hope we've convinced you that this project is worthwhile, and we invite your comments and questions. You're welcome to contact me, Alan Melby, at my FIT address, Alan Melby or Alan.Melby, either one, at fit-ift.org. Please include the keyword Indigenous in the subject line so I can pay particular attention to your message. Thank you very much. And now, during the question and answer period, we invite you to consider the poster behind me, which is the winning poster for this year's commemoration of the International Translation Day, September 30th.